But Cole, let's talk some basketball now. Yesterday was a journey, Red Rocks won late last night, but the Runnin Utes came back from behind yesterday afternoon. So are the Runnin Utes rounding the corner finally, Cole?
No, they're not. But yesterday was a good victory, I think. It's hard to say that yesterday is really a foot in rounding the quarter or a foot in the right direction. And it's because it was kind of the perfect situation in the second half. They didn't play a full 40 minutes of basketball. And it was kind of just a stellar performance by really one individual, kind of a few of the other guys as well. But just to introduce things, Utah trailed by 19 points yesterday to Colorado. And Colorado is one of the better, I think, one of the surprises of Pac-12 basketball this season, one of the better teams. Up until I think yesterday, they were really being considered for
were they an at-large team?
Not necessarily, but they definitely were in the conversation for making it into the tournament, the Pac-12 or the NCAA tournament. Kind of as one of those dark horse teams that nobody wants to play, that could maybe make it through the first and the second round. But Utah beating them yesterday may have heavily impacted that. So we love that. We love Utah beating up on Colorado because they seem to do it pretty often.
Consistently. Utah football, Utah basketball. I'm pretty sure if Colorado had a gymnastics team, that would also happen. But they don't have a gymnastics team, so.
I saw a meme yesterday that was like the two beefy, strong arms shaking hands, and it was like Colorado football, Colorado basketball, and the shaking hands was giving up big leads to Utah.
To Utah. I saw that too. That's a quality meme. So if our friends over at Buff Stash are watching this, Jason and Kieran, we're not sorry,
Nope, never
are.
So the guy that made the biggest difference yesterday was Alfonso Plummer.
Green light Plummer.
He went off. He had 0 points in the first half, went for 23 in the second half. He was 4 of 6 from 3-point range. Utah actually started the second half 0 for 5 from 3-point range, and this was at the point where it just looked like the game was completely over. They were down 19 points. They were shooting 33%, and I was watching the game, reporting on it, and I just thought oh boy, this is going to end up being a 30-point loss, probably the worst of the season. But then Plummer checks in, he hits a couple shots in a row, lifts the team's confidence. He helps Utah hit 5 of their last 6 3-point shots. He was just an absolute flamethrower. I mean, they were kind of comparing this performance to Alfonso's performance in the Pac-12 tournament, I believe last year.
Yeah.
I mean, he couldn't miss. It was crazy deep 3-pointers. It was fadeaway jump shots. It was, he got a mismatch a couple times and beat this defender to the rim. And he's not a big guy. He's pretty small. But he was just putting together a really fantastic game. Overall, Utah went on a 31-13 run over the last 9 minutes. And I think really what happened was Colorado just got way too complacent, and they thought the game was over. But everybody thought the game was over. I don't think there's a single person. Well, yeah, I remember talking to you about it, and just looking on Twitter and stuff like that. I mean, everybody was like, "Okay, this is bad, and this is going to end bad, and this is just probably going to end up being the worst loss of the season." And it also, when it was a 19-point lead for Colorado, that's when the commentators were like, "This is what Colorado can do. This is why they could, be one of those scary teams to make the NCAA tournament." And then all of a sudden, Alfonso Plummer just took the game into his hands and flipped the script, and they ended up winning by 3 points.
But with the commentator, I have one question. With the commentator saying this is what Colorado can do, or is it just that Utah is just subpar? Is it both? Because we've seen Utah storm out to double-digit leads before, multiple times throughout the season, and 9 times out of 10, nothing comes of it. So is it just Utah, or is it Colorado, or is it both?
think it's a little of both. I mean, Colorado has been they have a couple of pretty decent players. Their 3-point shooting was unbelievable in the first half. It leveled out in the second half. But no, I do think it'll be interesting to see how Colorado finishes. Yesterday may have ruined their hopes of entering the tournament. But no, I do think they're a good team. I think they have more talent than Utah does and more experience. But kind of to go back on that question that you asked originally, the reason I say that the Utes have not turned the corner is this is not really a replicable result. If Alfonso didn't go off, the Utes would have lost by 20 plus probably, or pushing 30. And the biggest problem is often that Timmy Allen is just it's almost like the entire team just puts the offense on his back and they expect him to do everything, but he's not, he's averaging 16.8 points per game, which is good. But that's not going to win ball games. He's not averaging 30, 35 points a game, to where it's like, okay, if we're down, he'll bring us back, or if it's close, he'll hit some clutch buckets. Now, especially in college basketball, you need a full team effort. And that's why this just isn't replicable, because the Utes often struggle to find consistent support on offense. And yesterday, they just lucked out that Alfonso decided to turn it up. But that's not an every game thing. It's like it's really frustrating to watch, because going into a Utah basketball game, you're going to get 15 to 20 points out of Timmy Allen. That's a gimme. Mm-hmm. But you really don't know who else is going to contribute. There's been a couple games where Fonz has gone off and he's had 15 to 20. You've had Pela Larson, who's had a couple 15-point games. Brandon Carlson had 18 points a few nights ago. And so it's
Rylan Jones with the consistent 5 points.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, it's just it's really it's tough, and that's why I say that they haven't turned that corner, is because you can't count on what happened yesterday to happen again. You're gonna get a lot from Timmy Allen, but you're not gonna get enough, and then you don't know where the rest is gonna come from. You don't know if it's gonna be Fonz. You don't know if it's gonna be Carlson. You don't know if it's gonna be Pela. You do know for sure that Rylan Jones is not going to do much, but that's not what we're here to talk about today.
You just love to hate on him, don't you?
He continues to just be terrible, and it's really frustrating. I think he's lost the starting position in my eyes, and it's frustrating that for whatever reason, Coach K continues to keep him in the starting lineup. I'd rather see Ian Martinez start. I'd rather see Alfonso step back into the starting lineup over Rylan, but I'm not the coach.